Thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation about regenerative agriculture. It is such an exciting time in the food industry. For the last 30 and 40 years, we've seen enormous progress with the organic certification, and dear friends have helped establish that. That work was tremendous and deep and heavy. And today, to show for it, 80% of us are buying something organic. 75% of all grocery store categories now carry something organic. But the problem is that only 1% of our farmland is organic. In the United States, we farm over 911 million acres, and yet only 1% of that is organic. So that creates an enormous challenge for all of us, for consumers, because there's this economic disadvantage, for the executives of these food companies, because the same problem, the math simply doesn't work. As more and more of us are demanding free from food, we've got to figure out how to convert the supply chains of the companies here on our own soil. Because right now what's happened is that as a result, a lot of these food companies have to import the ingredients that American consumers are asking for. So at RePlant Capital, we saw an enormous opportunity, and thankfully we're so excited to work with so many different groups and so many different organizations, the Future of Food organization here, South by Southwest, governors, senators. There are so many people who are working to get involved. Here in Colorado, our own congressman in his first year in office introduced two pieces of legislation on soil health, and they both got bipartisan support immediately because, as he said, who's not for soil health? What we are learning about soil health is so exciting. Soil is a database, and I think in this world of ag tech and so many tech solutions, that is one way to look at it. It is a powerful, powerful carbon sink as well. And I think only in the last decade have we truly come to understand the capacity and the enormity of what we can do with the soil. In the last couple of years, this word regenerative has become an enormous buzzword. And I really want to step back and say, you know, this methodology, this way of farming has existed for thousands and thousands of years. And really the important thing to do is to really step back and say, Indigenous farmers, farmers of color, they have always farmed this way. Why? Because we, in the last 20 or 30 years as a country, set up an enormously extractive agricultural system that was financed by an enormously extractive financial system. And you cannot fix a broken food system with a broken financial system. And so what happened when we introduced this agrochemical model is that farmers then had to take out loans to purchase seeds. Before, farmers had been able to save seeds. All of a sudden, that's a new recurring revenue line in the model for these companies that are selling genetically engineered seeds. On top of the revenue for the genetically engineered seeds, the farmers were also signing contracts saying that they would use the chemicals that go with those genetically engineered seeds. So it became a bundled product and a bundled package. And that's great if you're an agrochemical company selling genetically engineered seeds and agrochemicals. What happened to our farmers is that it threw them into enormous debt. And so today in the United States, our farmers carry $426 billion of debt, if not more. That number continues to grow because they're on this treadmill where they have to go back to the bank to finance the acquisition of seeds. They have to go back to the bank to finance the acquisition of the agrochemicals. And so their debt levels grow as the applications of these products grow. And it's madness. It's not serving our farmers in any capacity. It is definitely not serving the soil. It's not serving consumers who are looking for free from and products that are grown regeneratively, organically, without the use of all of these chemicals. And then now it's not serving the multinational food companies because they are no longer able to access in their supply chain what they need. So at RePlant, we stepped into that and said, you know what, here's an enormous opportunity to really rethink our supply chains and figure out how can we collaborate with all of these different stakeholders to create and expand and open up these supply chains. It is such an exciting time. You have companies like Danone, which is the world's, North America's largest B Corp certified corporation. You also have companies like AB InBev, which now has the 7th fastest growing beer in America, which happens to be their Michelob Ultra Organic. The challenge for a lot of these companies is how they tap the supply chain. So as a company, RePlant was formed to partner with farmers to help them have access to capital that could collaborate with them, provide the support, allow that introduction to technical assistance partners, and then also bring in that guaranteed buyer, that larger CPG company for the guaranteed offtake. And really what we're trying to do is mitigate the risk for the grower, because we see the challenges. You know, we have stood on these farms in Kansas and Iowa and California and Nebraska and Texas and Georgia, And it's the same problem everywhere. And as a result, really the greater crisis is that we have a legacy issue in the United States. I mean, young people don't want to go into farming, and who would want to if you're staring down that level of debt? So you have to think about it like, how do we put these guys in the role of CEO of their own operation? Because ultimately that's exactly what they are. And how do we honor our farmers as CEOs of their own operations? And so really, when we talk about regenerative agriculture, the farmers that have never had access to that capital because of these discriminatory lending practices, farmers of color, female farmers, indigenous farmers, they didn't have that same access to capital. So they had to farm regeneratively, which is working with the components of the soil instead of trying to power against it with the chemicals. And so really to step back at this point in time and say, as we have these conversations about regenerative agriculture, in my opinion and our opinion as RePlant, we feel that it is so incredibly important to make sure that we have a diversity of voices at the table, because we talk about the microbiome. I mean, there are a million conversations about probiotics and all these things that it does for your gut health. Well, the same work is being done on soil health and the microbiome of the soil. And so as we talk about soil health in the Central Valley in California with regenerative almond growing, it's going to be different than if we're talking about soil health on a ranch in Georgia that is serving lamb and bacon and different meat products out to families. So for us, it's really saying, we all have inherited this one size fits all mindset of agriculture. This agrochemical model was very presumptuous, and it assumed that this one size fits all could somehow be jammed down. And with that came a one size fits all form of financing. And really those parallel tracks are really what led us into this catastrophic crisis. So to step back from that and say, how can we regionalize the solution? At RePlant, we love working with capital sources that are regional. So if we're in the Central Valley, we want to tap Central Valley capital. We want to tap philanthropic resources, foundations that are there to then deploy that capital to farmers in the Central Valley and bring in those guaranteed buyers, the different companies that are purchasing almonds or different companies that are looking to operate and work in the Central Valley. And if we flip to Idaho and we're talking about potatoes, it's going to be a different equation and profile there, but very regionalized and very localized. And with that, we see resiliency, we see an infrastructure that is stabilizing. And if anything, over the last year with COVID, we have seen the vulnerability in our food system. So the opportunity in front of all of us is enormous. RePlant is very much a collaborator and a team player. We absolutely love working with and hearing from partners and stakeholders from across the entire food and agricultural spectrum. It is a really exciting time. No one organization can do it by themselves. No one demographic can do it by themselves. Today in the United States, 96% of farm operators are white. The primary 70% of those are male. And again, if you look at the finance model, it's a pretty similar profile with 98% male. So, we look at that and we say, here's an opportunity to really bring in the innovation and the creativity and the collaboration that's really going to build a beautiful, resilient, sustainable framework when it comes to talking about food and agriculture. And then when you layer on top of that, the fact that as we really focus on soil health, the soil's ability to store and draw down and hold carbon becomes even stronger. It becomes such an exciting opportunity for anyone who is involved or cares in any way about climate. And so for us at RePlant, we look forward to the conversation. We are thrilled to be partnering with different organizations across this amazing event. And there are so many ways that you can get involved. Please contact us at replantcapital.com. Again, my name is Robyn O'Brien, and I just want to thank everybody that's been part of this work, everybody that is thinking about being part of this work, to really lend your talents and your expertise, because none of us can do everything and all of us can do something. And this will be the most remarkable collaborative effort. So for those that are interested, please don't hesitate to get involved. And if there is any lesson that I have learned in my career, it is that courage is so contagious. And when you stand up to do something brave, it inspires other people to stand up and do something brave too. So thank you so much to all of you for all of your time. And thank you so much to the organizers.